but I'm willing to be surprised.
True. Well, we'll have to wait and see, as we do have the pick ban here for game number 1. All loaded up. Gen.G going to be starting on the blue side. They do have a slightly worse win record, actually, on the blue side, I believe. Yes, but we'll see if that comes into factor here. Seraphine is going to be the first ban.
And we don't like to see Seraphine bans on blue sides. I think we've seen time and time again how strong and ridiculous this champion really is. But specifically for Gen.G, I think it makes a little bit more sense because they are so heavy on that early aggression. And Seraphine, while being absurdly strong, does need a little bit more time, right? Like, no matter where you play her, you do want to hit your item spike before you really start to move around the map and use her. So I think in isolation, banning Seraphine on blue side, not the right way to go. For Gen.G specifically, will allow it because it's just not really in their wheelhouse and they don't want to slow down. Maybe BDD on the Zir, but that has also been banned away here.
Yeah. BDD has played in insane amount of games of Syndra, but some of the ones that really stand out are his games on Azir, right? The Syndra's kind of just like pretty straightforward, great play, but he does have a couple of highlights on that Azir. And we do see Udyr is going to be the first pick here for Clid, so not wasting any time picking that one up.
And the immediate response from Fredit Brion is securing both a very comfortable pick for Lava, then picking up the Olaf. I'm not a huge fan of the Olaf on 11.3. I think T1 really showed why it's really a big risk to pick. The Orianna, though, gives it a little bit more longevity. However, one of the problems that we've seen with Udyr time and time again is he gets picks and then he does nothing early game, right? He doesn't have Dragon Prio, just farms. And then you see like the 4K end of the game Udyr damage. You're like, that's not quite what you want to see. With Clid, I don't think we're going to see similar issues.
No, I don't believe so. And keep in mind that when they pick Orianna Olaf, they leave Kai'Sa wide open. So Ruler's like, yes, thank you very much. I mean, you can ban away my Kalista, but if you're going to give me the best AD carry at the moment, what do I care, really? And then BDD jumps onto Syndra, which isn't really a surprise there. Looks like Bro might be looking to do a little bit of countering down in the bottom side with Tristana.
And this is something that surprises me, but in a positive sense. I was kind of expecting Bro to go for a similar situation where they're like, you know, we're going to look for team fights. We're going to put Hoya on the tank, which, to be fair, they can still do, depending on what Gen.G bans here. But we're gonna play it safe, gonna play it slow, and hope that Gen.G doesn't do anything. This Tristana and Olaf actually tell an opposite tale, where Fredit Brion is saying, no, actually, we're gonna try and contest, right? Tristana is really good at grabbing early prio. The threat of an all-in is something that even a duo as good as Ruler and Live need to respect. And that creates a situation where it's like, so far, I'm happy. You know, like, if this goes wrong for Bro, you're in a heap of trouble. But against Gen.G, I quite like it. I think that if you do go for like the more conservative draft, you're going to get demolished based on what we've seen thus far from both these two teams.
Yeah, you can't just sit down and take it. You got to throw some punches back, and that's exactly what we see there. See a couple of tankier members here, the Gragas and the Rel, will be banned away. I was thinking maybe you want to take away the Alistair, but Delight going to be denied the Rel, at least, and potentially the Gragas. The Gnar is the pick, actually, for Hoya here.
Interesting. I thought they were going to set up for for possibly an Ornn pick, because that is what Hoya has been playing traditionally. But the Gnar, more pressure, and two of the hard quotation mark counters in the Camille and the Gangplank have been banned away. So this is actually a Fredit Brion that in draft is really taking a different approach, right? Like, you're looking at prio lanes in bot and top side, and that actually gives the opportunity for Auntie to actually get something done. But this is another counter, and Aurelia currently has a 100% win rate. That is, of course, because she only gets picked in matchups where she's good, or if you're closer.
Or you're just really damn good at the champion, right?
You can get away with it, right? As a whole, though, really interesting here. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Bro. I think that they're definitely taking a risk with this. I think this is a lot more execution heavy. This is relying on them actually doing stuff in the early game, because even though, yes, you can late game team fight with this comp, your front line is not the most amazing, and I feel like you might run into trouble just by how strong Gen.G can play in those later fights. But they have a lot more tools to work with, and I'm pretty happy about that. I was kind of expecting them to go the old Fredit Brion way, but this is looking hopeful.
Yeah, it's definitely throwing a little bit of wrenches in the gears, right? Trying to get into the heads. Gen.G tries something new. There are obviously a million different ball carriers on their side, right? Olaf likes it, but specifically Gnar and Rakan do love it on the engages, even Tristana at times.
I was about to say, Valdez, honestly, if you ever get in a position where Tristana is your best ball carrier, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, well,
that's the dream.
could happen. And I mean, you look at the side of Gen.G, it's a lot of standard stuff, and then you get Aurelia up on the top side. So once again, kind of going into that idea that Rascal is a beast in the top lane and will be looking to take a counter pick and potentially just shut down the lane early on.
And while I'm happy with that Fredit Brion kind of going in a different direction, when we actually look at the draft when it was said and done, I expect that Rascal will have Prio, I expect BDD to have Prio, so that's still going to be a top side where Clid kind of can reign supreme. And it's then up to the bot side of Hannah and the Lights to actually enable Umti to really get anything done in that early game. And I think Dragon Prio is going to be a really, really big one here for either team. Both these two junglers have in common that if you don't get an early Dragon Prio, your late game can be kind of rough.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot here, especially in Season 11. So we're jumping out of the Rift here for game number 1, match 53. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see just how much Prio Henna and Delight can get in the bottom side. If this were Ruler in life, like if the matchups were switched and the champions were switched, I feel like I'd be like, oh man,
oh, no.
Bro is in a world of hurt. But, you know, with the nameplates on, it's like, I really want to see just how much value they can get out of this. Because if you just go even and the Kai'Sa just, you know, gets a mostly free lane, doesn't really fall behind, yeah, you can get some Prio for the Drakes, but we'll see if even that can happen. You know, it really depends on how that matchup is played in the 2v2.
I think one problem that Fredit Brion can run into if they get into a deficit specifically on top side is that in a 4-1 situation, even with the hard engage from Fredit Brion, which I think is quite good, it's not like Gen.G's ability to kind of kite back to disengage with the Alistair, to use the Scatter the Weak to kind of peel away from that. And then if you have a fat Rascal in the side lane, there's really not anyone on Fredit Brion that can deal with that. So if Gen.G actually do pay early attention, which with this jungle pathing is looking pretty likely, right? We all know how much Clit loves visiting Rascal and helping him out and getting him ahead. If that actually happens here, if this Aurelia does find a lead, which, let's be honest, Rascal is kind of known for, that is something that you can really, really push hard as Gen.G here.
Yeah, I mean, it may just all come into this kind of perfect storm situation where Hoya never gets any help from his team. Rascal always dominates in the 1v1 or the 2v1, which, as it turns out, is the majority of the time. What is going on in this mid lane, by the way? Lava's just incredibly low. He is going to use that corrupting pot just at the last second with that rune that gives you that little extra spike, but still a great trade here for BDD, already getting early Prio in this lane.
And this is a dream scenario for Clit, right? Because it allows him to get a lot more done, and this subsequent Scuttle fight coming up is going to be way easier. Lava forced to immediately teleport back to the lane here, which means that BDD can...
Yeah, he actually missed the auto. Yeah.
BDD, I'm wondering to see if he goes for the teleport here. If he does, he will keep up laning pressure to a much greater extent, and it will make a Scuttle fight a lot easier. But simultaneously, he can kind of hold it here. I think that Lava, the wave, should bounce here. Meaning BDD basically gets a free back, still has to teleport for any cross-map placed. And that gives Gen.G a lot more global pressure, which they can use very well with how aggressive Rascal has been in this lane thus far.
Yeah, it's perfect that the start of the lane for BDD is just a bit of a dunking to start off here. bit of a cheater, I suppose you could call it. He still has his teleport, as you mentioned. Clid gets his run of the map. Notice how there was also no leash in the jungle. So Ruler and Life got to the bottom lane first, and so they got that initial push. So we were talking about the 2v2 and how that could play out. That gives them a little bit of an extra advantage to hit level 2 first.
And this is the worst case scenario for Umti, where, and this is something we see a lot of teams with Udin not do, is actually get him in a position where he can get the double scuttle, right? Where he can start rolling early, because if Udin gets a lead, he gets to farm your opponent's jungle, it gets very, very uncomfortable, especially on a jungler like Olaf. It's not like a Kindred, right, where you can get into late game. Guys, I have value. I'm useful. I'm able to throw down a Lamb's Respite. Olaf is very much not that type of champion.
Yeah, things nobody has said about Olaf ever.
No.
Although on 11.2 and 1, we did see a lot more of that, where it was like this kind of matchup, the Olaf Orianna was pretty popular because basically Olaf was unkillable with Drinker and Sterix and an Orianna ball, so he has the extra movement speed. We got a little bit of a trade down here in the bottom side. Henna and Delight are getting in. The Ruler will be forced to flash away, but they're looking to turn it around now. Delight getting ignited as the Q from Ruler doesn't actually hit anything but the minions. And Henna still at full health. Feels like they got the better of that trade.
I think in terms of summoners, it is a slightly favorable one for Gen.G. Delight not having flash means that any level 6 play becomes a little bit less strong. But yeah, it started out really well. Ruler getting the isolated Q there on Delight, which is, even as early and unevolved, a lot of damage. But then the subsequent fight not really going their way, and that's always the risk with trying to play against Tristana aggressively early. Need to respect it. They did decently well, and in the end, not a lot is lost of gain for either team.
Yeah, we'll see if Bro can kind of collapse onto Ruler when he has no flash, or if that even comes into play in this game. So far out of some trading in the lanes and a double scuttle from Clid, there hasn't been too much action. Clid is getting aggressive once again. He's like, Umti, you're here. Are you going to help your buddy? Maybe I can force you to? Umti's like, nah, I'll just do the Krugs. Like oh yeah, just flashes. He's like, are you ever going to help me in the top lane? Umti says, nah, buddy.
And this is the problem. Like, we talk about Rascal and Clid, like, oh, they're really good. Renekton and Nidalee. Renekton gets banned, so Nidalee lose a lot of value. They don't go for that. And regardless, Rascal and Clid find a way. The fact that Rascal, or that Clid rather, can just randomly walk up between two turrets while the Olaf is there and force a flash is exactly the type of pressure that Gen.G does so well. That makes him so dangerous. BDD as well picked up an early tier, has had Prio in this lane basically since the get-go. Next Scuttle Crab is going to go towards Clid as well. And even if you don't kill Lava, it doesn't really matter because it just means that, bro, they can't do anything.
Yeah. You push him out of the lane, he doesn't have teleport. Look at this, it's pushing into BDD as well. So BDD isn't pushing, he's just getting an advantage. The 1v1 fight here is going to go the way of Umti, actually. And with the Prio on the bottom side, looks like he will have to give up that Scuttle Crab, the first one here for Umti.
Okay, really well played by Hannah and Delight there, seeing, you know, Olaf kind of having a rough go. Let's find the Prio and help him out a little bit. And that is something that is really important here because it doesn't necessarily give Umti a huge spike, but these are the type of objectives where if you lose them early, we already talked about this, power farmers like the Udyr can kind of multiplicatively use early leads into bigger leads, and then they become this unduelable juggernaut. So these little moments still really help kind of keeping the pace down, but it says a lot about Gen.G as a team that we're 7.5 minutes in, nothing has happened on the map, but they still have a 1k gold lead. That's...
yeah. It's just what they do.
Yeah.
There's no stopping them, it seems like. They are the apex predator of all of the prey, which is any team that is below them on the standings, really. And then they struggle a little bit when, you know, the meteor hits Earth, and then one of the stronger team comes in, and they can't just dumpster a team. As in goes Rascal. Here's the 1v1 we were looking for. Meganar is a very long way off. Looking for the stun here. No flash right now on Hoyle, you'll remember, and this should be an easy kill. First blood in the solo kill does go the way of Rascal.
And this is the pressure from Clid paying off. Him walking between those two turrets mean that the moment that Hoya walks up in that lane, post 6, it's a free ultimate. And if there's anyone you can't give that kind of lead, it's Rascal. Use it beautifully, and this lane is now starting to go from bad to worse. And we talked about it, if Aurelia gets ahead, it's not good for Fredit Brion. Like, we can go more in depth, but that's basically the gist of it.
Yeah, you know, pretty straightforward. Everybody's kind of been there in solo queue as well, but also here in competitive, it does make the difference. Scout of the Week is going to miss onto Lava, and finally Lava's taking some nice trades here with the blue. Maybe looking to push BDD out of lane, and he doesn't have his teleport this time around, so nice trading here from Lava to put on the pressure.
Don't forget, this is the man that won against Showmaker, Valdez.
True.
So, we joke about it, but I think especially on the Orianna, which is something that Fredit Brion have really prioritized, is a go in.
Oh, no flash on a ruler, and he might just be dead. There is the burst damage, and he just goes down, not even able to use his heal. Maybe he elected not to because he knew he was just dead. And that's going to be a nice conversion, and that means that the first Drake will go the way of the Olaf.
And Fredit Brion actually making moves here. We talk about the top side. Yes, that's kind of a disaster. But when it comes to the bot side, we talked about the all-in potential of this Tristana. And it's done really well here. They wait in the brush, right? Just see if they walk up greedily. They do. And now we get into a situation where Fredit Brion, unfortunately the kill didn't go to Hannah, because that would be a best case scenario, but they still pick up a Drake, and we won't have a Cloud Soul. So all in all, very happy about it.
Yeah, the real win there is the fans. We don't get the Cloud Soul. We should have some more action. This is just no flash mini Gnar against Aurelia.
Yeah, and this is also great lane manipulation here from Rascal, and I don't think they know that no, at this, like, oh. So what you see there is that he comes so close with the sweeper, but he doesn't actually spot them until it's too late, and then with Tristana already on top of your head, the damage from Rocket Jump combined with the burst of Halo Blades is a very unfortunate ending there for Ruler.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they needed. You could see that there is a massive wave coming in here so that Henna can catch up a little bit. The gold lead is only, 30 gold actually in favor of Ruler, most of that being CS at the moment. You mentioned Henna didn't pick up the kill. That's going to help out there as well. And you can see now they're getting cryo down on the bottom side, but there's no Drake this time around, so BDD are just kind of going to be running around. We got another big trade in the mid lane here. BDD looking for that unleash power, but is not going to go ahead and unleash it.
BDD also can easily... Oh, yeah.
Lava just flashed. And so did BDD, actually. I just saw that randomly on the side. I just needed to...
no,
that's big.
That is really big. I think that in terms of setup, it's a lot easier for Gen.G because Lava, the only really cool, like CC has is his Shockwave, whereas Scatter the Weak or an Udyr Bear Slap are more than enough to now take care of the Orianna.
Look at this. Yeah, Klitus is coming in here and capitalizing. Nowhere to be seen is anywhere else on the side of Bro, and they even had vision, but Udyr's just too fast. He has no flash, and there was just no escape for poor Orianna.
And I love that every time we say Gen.G, maybe you want to, maybe they'll play through Rascal, maybe they'll try and actually use the advantages. They always do it, and this is what makes this such a good team, right? This is why, as a Gen.G fan, you're always happy to see these proactive drafts, because even in the LCK, there's a team that if a flash is down, they will actually use it. And this is what, like 20 seconds later?
Lava's trying to stop the back, and it's just a little bit too far up the lane against an Udyr, I suppose.
Yeah, and it goes in what we said earlier. This setup is so easy for Clit and BDD, and without any form of dash as Orianna. Just like, if one of them hits you, you're basically immediately gone, even with BDD being rather low. And BDD also crucially saved his unleashed power in an earlier fight, whereas Lava did use his. So it's good trades all around.
Life is going to have to pop his ultimate. Note that he has taken Phase Rush this time around, so his the times where he pops his Unbreakable Will are actually going to be the highest amount of power, because, he doesn't get the Aftershock procs for in-between ultimates, but when he has Phase Rush with his ultimate, he's just kind of an unstoppable force.
It gives you so much more sticking power, and it's something that we kind of saw Merc
go in. Oh, he is so dead! There's just everybody on the side of Gen.G is getting in on that one. Nobody missing out on the action this time around, as in goes Kai'Sa. And yeah, I mean, Ruler's not here to accept the wave, but man, they're going to get this early mid-tier 1 turret so early on.
And it's all 5 plates, it's pre-14 minutes, so that's an immense amount of gold going towards BDD and Clit. And this is something that a lot of teams don't really utilize, is the power of the Kai'Sa ultimate with like these roaming plays. Generally, we see a lot of teams, they just play Kai'Sa, right? Like if she gets a lead, sure, but otherwise she'll just sit in lane, and then in team fights she use it to reposition or go for a backline assassination.
Yeah.
But it's actually super strong in situations like this, where you can be like halfway through the river, and Udyr hits a bear slap, and out auto-attacking, can't miss. And then it's just a free kill here for Ruler. As
no. They didn't even need the unleashed power. Rascal was right on top of him. He didn't have flash again, so that was used sometime earlier up in the lane.
And this is the reason why we often see Hoya on the tanks as, do you really want to fight here?
Yeah. Jonas Strong is like, are you kidding me? He zooms in, he's like, what are you guys doing? You're joking, right? Actually, a lot of damage is going to be done to Life. No Aftershock, remember, so he's relatively squishy. He's going to have to pop that ultimate, but BDD and Klid leave him alone, and I suppose that Fredit Brion were right after all.
And proven wrong there. I thought that maybe Rascal wanted to go for something, but I feel like the call from Gen.G there was, we need to get this Drake, right? Like, we don't actually want to get caught in an awkward team fight, but the disengage isn't really there. If you can't easily proc that phase rush without going in, you're kind of in an awkward spot where, as you said before, you're not really tanky. Life also uses the Unbreakable very late. I'm not sure if it was still on cooldown.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
He has red buff, too. I mean, there's just no escape. If he lands a stun here, well, see ya. This is my play-by-play. He's just so dead, there's nothing else to say.
But, like, the moment that Hoya is there and you see the Aurelia walk up, like, you just know it's over. And that's the problem with this lane. If Rascal gets the counter pick and Gen.G actually plays to it, as we already said during Champ Selects, it's a big problem for Fredit Brion. And what does Gen.G do? Exactly that. Like, they pay attention to Rascal. Rascal then uses that space that Klid gives him to absolutely demolish Hoya with the counter pick that he got. And now you're in a situation where you can't deal with Rascal. Oh, I don't know why we're watching this again. This is just...
Yeah. Break it down.
So, I think that if you don't hit that stun, you're still dead just by the virtue of the red buff, as you already pointed out. So even if you don't fire that, I don't think it really matters. It's just your positioning at that point in time as Hoya. It's understandable because you want to hit your level 11, right? Like, you want to farm, you so desperately need that first item. But if you don't know where Rascal is, and you don't have flash, you just can't be at a position in the lane. You need either backup, but there was no teleport from Lava, or you need something else to just make sure that exactly this scenario doesn't happen.
Yeah, and now the scenario is that he can't even enter lane. Like, even if he has flash, we would have seen that same trade, except he burns his flash.
Yeah.
And then he can't enter the lane again after that. So it's like, you know, regardless, you're losing something, right? And so he will just have to be insanely respectful to the Aurelia and keep him at double arm's distance here.
And this is not a good look for Hoya, but it's also important to remember Umti has paid barely, if none, close to none attention to the top side. Even when he was top side, Hoya's flash was forced, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was there. And he got counterpicked, right? And I think on something like the Ornn, where you often see him on, that's not really a problem, right? Because you can kind of mitigate it. But on the Gnar, you can't pick Gnar and have a lane like this. Like, it's just not something you can get away with. And I don't know if Fredit Brion thought that, you know, Rascal's just going to pick something more neutral. I mean,
they didn't do their research, right?
Like, that's the thing, right? Like, I can't imagine that they didn't know that Rascal was going to go for a counter pick as he goes.
Oh man, Ruler's just looking for the solo kill. They're going to just trade ultimates at the end of the day. But it looked like maybe it was going for something as Klid was looking to get in there as well.
I've seen this before. This is where Ruler is like, okay, you killed me, and now it's personal, right? Like, yeah. I don't like that. I don't like it when I get killed. If it's a 2v2 or a 1v1, I don't really care. And yeah, oh yeah, it's level 11. I think he might be close to his first item. Hopefully, that Mythic Spike is something he might be looking for. Now, what can Fredit Brion still do? There's still the wombo combo possibility, but then you need to stop falling further and further behind. That's just stemming the bleeding at this point in time is so incredibly hard. Because this is what Gen.G does every single game that they get leads like this.
Yeah, they lock it down, that's for sure. They're going to lock down Shirley. Actually, Shirley won't even get a charge here, so that's pretty nice. The blue buff will go the way of BDD, but it's still a decent trade. You keep that bottom turret and allow Lava to just farm it up here.
And if you thought it couldn't be worse, Rascal has gone for Strike Breaker, which means that like he has even more sticking power.
Yeah. And
I think that Strike Breaker is not necessarily as strong in a teamfight situation, but in a long lane, which traditionally is when Gnar shines, it provides so much power. It also counteracts the finishing of Strike Breaker by Hoy himself. And yeah, it's not like Aurelia lacks sticking power. Now it's even worse. And all in all, what Fredit Brion need to do is to find a way to like punish Rascal, right? And then maybe you can look for a 4v4. You can look for that big combo that we talked about earlier, where Rakan goes in, you hit the shockwave, Hoya finds a big stun into the wall. But I don't think Gen.G are going to let those kind of situations arise. They don't need to because they have such enormous pressure coming out from Rask on the side lane.
This is the scariest side laner you've seen since 3-0 Camille.
Yeah.
It's going to be really rough for anyone to enter that lane at this point in time. And it looks like they're just designating either Lava or Hoya to come up and catch waves. At this point, it is Lava that's up on the top side. Nobody's going to look to enter that lane at all. They'll just try to get enough vision to survive and farm, use it as a farm lane. But when this happens, you know, you need Umti to be up in the top side. You're going to use some resources to get vision up there. You're going to start giving away Drakes, and as you can see with the Mountain Soul coming up, it's going to be pretty easy for Gen.G to just start scooping Drake after Drake with pretty much no recourse from Fredit Brion.
And this is the point where you'd look at the draft and say, so we gave a blind pick to Hoya, and we gave priority for the R5 counter pick to the Light, right? Yeah. And I feel like this Rakan pick didn't actually get enough done to kind of justify that. And of course, that is retroactively. But going into the second game, I mean, they're going to be on blue side, so it won't be very relevant there. But more into future games, it's something where I would very much like to see them actually give Hoya the comfort of getting that counter pick, just so this exact scenario doesn't happen, as we get a Mountain Rift.
Yes.
We already, never mind, Mountain Dragon was taken. I knew it was a Mountain Rift. Oh, I'm just so happy about it, you know? Like, I can't get over it.
Yeah, some stats, guys. We had our stats team also make a little graph here, if you can call it that, a table, you could say. Shout out to the many people who contacted us on Twitter and also did the stats as well. But as it currently stands on 11.3, Cloud Rift was 16 out of 29 for 11.3. And on 11.1, it was the majority by far as well. So some ridiculous Cloud Rift numbers. And thankfully, we avoid that here today because Atlas isn't here.
And that's the thing, right? Like, I think that statistically, Atlas isn't even...
Yeah, he's not even. But that's the meme.
But that's the beauty of it, right? I'd like to think that, you know, everyone here, everyone at home, collectively, we make the Cloud Soul happen, and then we blame Atlas.
Yeah.
It's a perfect...
Just blame him anyway. Like, it's not even his fault. But it is your fault, Atlas.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the Cloud Souls.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Makes our games very entertaining. It does also lead to a scenario where Gen.G, if they keep this dominance up, I don't expect we go to 4 Drakes. Like, Gen.G games generally end a lot faster than that. But you can get like all types of disgusting combinations where you get 4 mountains, and then you get like the Udyr that is unkillable. Life gets back a lot of tankiness that he would otherwise lack, right, due to the phase rush. And it's just a situation that doesn't make you a very happy Fredit Brion player. Now, to look a little bit on the plus side, Fredit Brion, they're still hanging in there. There's no soul for the foreseeable future. And if you can get to a situation where people like Lava, Hannah get to 2 free items, and Gen.G go a little bit over-enthusiastic on the skirmish, which they can do sometimes. They are known to give away tempo, but that's generally against the weaker team, or against the stronger teams rather, not against teams like Fredit Brion.
Yeah, for now, I don't think Gen.G are really, they're not feeling any pressure or like they're in danger or anything like that. So they're kind of just taking their time, right? We get a little bit of a lull state here where they just scoop objectives. Lava tries his hardest to spend his entire mana bar to do about 1/3 of Udyr's health. So props to that. As now he's probably just dead. He does have his flash. And actually, he will be able to just walk away from that one. Doesn't even burn to the Leandries, so props to him to surviving.
Verdant Barrier to the rescue right there, but the fact that Lava, like an Orianna ultimate that's supposed to be impactful at this point in the game, like does basically nothing to Clit, and tickles Life, who is not even the super tanky variety of Alistair. It's just, that's the kind of stuff that, as Fredit Brion, makes you realize, like, sure, we have this great late-game combo that can possibly come to fruition, but you're still so far away. As of right now, they're still at a rough 5.5k gold deficit, and the amount of item spikes that have been hit by Gen.G make it basically impossible for Fredit Brion to find a fight that is not super one-sided or a super big mistake. And with Baron actually being a relevant target on the map now, I would not be surprised to say Gen.G at some point say, get the 5 backs in, shove the lanes out, just threaten the Baron. If they try and fight with us, we kill them with a gold lead.
Yeah.
We take the Baron, and then it's pretty much over.
We just smack them down if they try to threaten us to do anything. I think they do have that power at this point in time.
I'd say so.
I wonder what this next item is going to be for Lava, because nowadays, you mentioned the Verdant Barrier, second item Banshees and also Lucidity Boots, you get 0 penetration, right? There's just nothing. And it's going to be a bit of a problem, especially when you're going up against tanks that do build some sort of resistances that are stacking Mountain Drakes, right? So maybe avoid Staff next, wouldn't mind it. They're going to need some kind of damage to actually challenge Gen.G's lead here.
And you talked about, we do see the fully stacked Theta for Lava when you look at itemization. Something that I love that BDD did is what we also see on Gragas, where he buys an early tier, because of course Syndra's mana costs have repeatedly been nerfed. You can see it even in this game. Showmaker is also very often, it's level 3, right? Like the lane is shoved in, but you have no mana. And that tier kind of alleviates that. When you get to the mid game where your mana generation just kind of kicks it up a notch, you get into a situation where you can just sell it. The loss is very negligible and it lets you create leads like this.
All right, that ultimate going to do about nothing. Olaf will be running away. He finds an Aurelia in the jungle. That's the last thing he wanted to see. And that's going to be 2 free picks there. Gen.G, they got bored. They're like, you know, let's just kill them now. Okay. They pressed their buttons and they killed them. So they got a couple of kills, and now they're probably going to take the Baron.
And I think Fredit Brion there starts off kind of looking for a fight. And here Rascal finds like the one thing that Aurelia does really well in team fights, because if you're in a skirmish, Aurelia's fine, but in actual 5v5s, it's kind of hard to have a big impact, unless she had a big ultimate, which she very much did there. And they are going to give over this Mountain Drake, so Fredit Brion, you know, this is nice, sets up for a possible soul, or for a possible soul down the line, but the real problem is, I don't think we're going to get that.
It may not matter in the end. As you can see, Umti as the Olaf, he has to frontline. Really nice ultimate from the Aurelia, as you mentioned. A bunch of flashes come in, nets them another kill. But it's really just the sad state of affairs right now for Fredit Brion, where they're just kind of running away, and they're not really able to do much. Even if there was more Wombo combo with like a Gnar in there, I'm not even confident that they would be doing enough lethal damage at this point.
Because that's the problem, right? You saw Lava that yet again, he throws out a shockwave and it does nothing. And you can't really fault him for it. It's just the fact that the composition that you're playing against has stacked up a lot of them out, right? Like some of the Turbo Chem Tank, we see Rascal with the boots, also has a lot of effective health through Stride Breaker and Sterex. And it's just, unless you like 100 to 0 Ruler in like one of those combos, the rest of the team isn't really going to care. And I don't expect Ruler to be in a position where that's going to happen, right? Like this is an AD carry that we very often call one of the strongest in the LCK, and we have a lot of strong AD carries there.
We do. He's trying to get on top of Ruler here. You can see they do a bit of poke damage, but an equal amount or more is traded back to the Olaf. And they're just sieging here with the Baron.
And this is such a big problem, because we talked about a 4-1, but even in a 4v5, like, Gen.G is just comfortable just like shoving up, right? Like still pushing, even though they're at a one-man deficit.
Yeah.
Because they know that even if the fight goes, you can stall it long enough, you're tanky enough that you can wait for Rascal to be there, or you just kite back and then Rascal just takes turrets and takes inhibitors, and
yeah,
it's a insufferable gold lead here for Fredit Brion.
Look at the level lead in the top lane, by the way. This is just disgusting. He is he's almost level 18, ladies and gentlemen. And Lava's the closest. He's more than 2 levels behind at this point. Most gold as well, out of anybody.
And it's just, this is just a textbook Gen.G game, right? Like, it's always nice when teams do what you expect from them, and I feel like Gen.G does this the most, where it's just like, this is Gen.G, this is what they do, and they do it over again and again and again so well that you can't help but lose to it.
Uh-oh, Delight is dead. Pretty straightforward there. Did not even get a chance to flash away. Saw the Alistar coming in, he kind of just accepted his fate. Chem Tank is going to be popped here, and Hoya is just not even tanky at all. Like, at this point, he just gets one taps by the side of Gen.G. This is the perfect example of smacking another team with your wallets. Atlas would be so proud, and I'm sure he's watching right now, as the Baron buff is going to run out, but it doesn't seem like Gen.G really care. They're just moving over here to the bottom side where the lane has been pushed in perfectly. and they will be looking to take down all of the buildings here on that side. Ruler, very angry, gonna pick up another kill here, as they're just trying to desperately stop Gen.G from taking everything, but they're not even successful in that.
And that's desperation, right? Where you see like Clady's so low, and you hit him with a shockwave, and your Tristana is right there. You still can't kill him, and it's such a tech move to Gen.G again, right? Like now 3 inhibitors are down, you don't get anything on the map. You're at a almost 15k gold deficit. This is where Gen.G gets their stats. Valdez. Like this is how it happens. As here you see, like if anyone gets hit at any point by any skill from Gen.G, it doesn't matter who it is. This happens, right? Because you see it here. Then the exact same thing happens to Hoya, who is close to a Mega Gnar, but even if he's Mega Gnar, it doesn't actually change the fact he transforms there at the very latest. And this is the epitome of like feels Batman type of replays where you just see like.
Do we need to see this?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like a BDD. I don't want to call it a highlight reel because it's not always the guy setting it up, but it's just like the most fun game as Syndra. Like if you're a Syndra player, you understand where you're in solo queue, you're so far ahead that you just scatter the weak whatever you see and you like always hit it because you're feeling it. And it's just one after the other after the other. The bowling pins go down, and Gen.G, they're now going to push in for this one. Ruler frontlining. Hoya desperate once again up on the top side, but with all the super minions coming on in, this time the Scout of the Week will miss. And this will be it. The Light gives it one last chance. Life actually going to miss on his engage as well, as the Light will pop back. Nice shockwave. This time they're trying to take out BDD, but they can't actually get the last kill. Finally the axe comes through and Olaf gets the big shutdown, but still a lot of other tools here. Trying to extend way deep into the base of Fredit Brion. They're not actually able to get any kills. Finally, they find the engage they're looking for, and that's going to be the triple kill. Make it the quadra. Will it be a penta? Can they set up for the penta? They're going to try to get it. The penta will come in, as Rillo will pick up the penta here in game number 1 of Gen.G up against Fredit Brion.